picture this. It is the year 873, and you are a young monk on the northern coast of England. Dawn mist clings to the stones as you kneel for morning prayer. The chapel bells fade, but another sound rises behind them, deeper and heavier, a warning that sends ice into your spine. You rush to the window. Through the fog you see them, long ships sliding across the gray water like blades. You think they want silver, you think they want gold, but what they truly want is you. You do not understand it at first. When the Vikings thunder through the monastery gates, you clutch your crucifix and whisper the same prayer you have whispered during every raid rumor. Take the treasure, take the relics, take anything but the brothers. But as their boots slam against the chapel floor, you notice something strange. They do not head for the treasury. They do not even glance at the chests filled with coins. Their eyes lock on you, the novices, the village women who gathered for morning prayer. You are herded into a line as easily as sheep, wrists bound with braided cord that tightens each time you breathe. They inspect you one by one, teeth, hands, strength, then appearance. You realize, with a sickness that crawls up your throat, that you are being chosen, not for labor, but for what their society calls breeding stock. You try to reason with yourself that such stories are exaggerations told by frightened priests, but the longship deck tells the truth. Women of all ages sit pressed against the hull, and children cling to them, some crying, some silent as stone. The Vikings speak of this openly, as if discussing livestock. In their world, a person can be owned across generations. Children born to thrall mothers are not free, not ever. They inherit their mother's chains the way other children inherit land. The men around you laugh as they point to a girl no older than 12, saying she will fetch a high price in Dublin. The great market the Vikings built not for silver or furs but for people. There, they say, beauty is weighed like grain and youth is more valuable than any stolen relic. You listen as one warrior describes how slave children are raised not as sons or daughters but as future property, groomed for whatever role the household demands. Some are trained for field work, others for service, many for things far darker. The ship smells of salt and fear. You think of the monastery, the quiet halls, the soft scrape of quills on parchment, all of it gone. As the oars beat the sea and the coastline shrinks to a bruise on the horizon, you understand the truth no chronicler ever wrote in full. The Vikings did not build their world on gold. They built it on bodies. On people like you, harvested like crops, sorted by worth, and carried across the sea to a life where your name no longer matters, only your usefulness. You stare at the dark water, wishing for a miracle, but miracles do not come to thralls, only chains. You are led from the ship in silence, not by force, not with whips, but with expectation. The Viking village smells of smoke and brine, seaweed drying on wooden racks, meat turning on spits, but underneath it all is something older, something rotten. The woman who takes you in is not cruel. She barely speaks. Her hands are weathered, her eyes pale as frost. They call her a seeress, a vulva. She is respected, even feared. Children step aside when she walks by. Warriors bow their heads. But it is what she keeps inside her longhouse that you cannot forget. Beneath animal hides and carved talismans, the walls are lined with bones, real bones, still yellow with marrow. Skulls of birds, deer, and sometimes smaller things. Human things. She begins your training without warning. You are made to sit for hours in smoke-filled corners, chanting words you do not understand. You are told to watch as she handles the remains of the dead, not with disgust, but with reverence. She crushes dried blood between her fingers, arranges bones into strange circles, pours dark liquid into the fire, and inhales the fumes like air. At night, she sleeps beside the skull of a child, wrapped in cloth like a doll. You ask what it means. She does not answer. But each morning she paints your face in ash and leads you into the woods. There, in a grove surrounded by stone markers, she buries offerings. A bird's heart, a pig's eye, a girl's braid. You recognize the last one. It belonged to someone from the ship, the girl who cried herself hoarse beside you. You never saw her again. On the third day, the vulva hands you a knife. Not to kill, but to slice open a deer's belly and reach inside. She tells you to find the liver and hold it to your face. She watches your reaction. She is not looking for strength. She is looking for silence. Each test is meant to scrape something away, your fear, your disgust, your memory. You are not being taught to speak with the dead. You are being trained to live among them. One night, she places a bundle in your lap. Inside are organs, human, still warm. She does not explain. She only nods. You understand. You are expected to consume. Not all at once, just enough to lose the part of you that recoils. Outside, the village dances. They celebrate the harvest. They raise horns to Thor and Odin. They do not know, or do not care, that beneath the longhouse roof, you are learning to worship in a different way. Through death, through silence, through the taste of things no one should taste. And when you finally feel nothing, when the bone in your hand feels no different than a branch, the vulva smiles, not with kindness, with victory. You are ready, not to be free, but to become her. It begins with silence, not the kind that settles at night, but the kind that creeps into a village like fog, thick and knowing. You sense it before you hear the footsteps, before the elders knock on the doors, before the names are spoken. Everyone knows the gods require payment, but when you live among Vikings, payment does not mean coin. It means flesh. It is the 9th year, the year of selection. You stand among them now, in a clearing surrounded by trees whose roots remember every sacrifice. The sacred grove, they call it, the place where Odin listens, where Freya watches, where Thor waits. You were told the rituals had faded, that these ceremonies were echoes of older times, but they have not faded. They have only grown quieter, more careful. You see the others 9 animals first, tied in pairs, goats, dogs, horses, even a hawk. They twitch and whimper as the drums begin. Then come the humans, one by one, young, strong, frightened. A girl with flaxen hair who sang during the harvest. A boy who limped from a wound that never healed. An elder with a blind eye. A man who once shouted at a jarl. A mother who lost her child. Each chosen for a reason, though none of them understand what it was. You are told this is necessary, that without it, the sun will not rise, the crops will rot, the sea will turn to ice. You do not believe this, but you say nothing. Because the one who speaks out joins the line. They are dressed in white linen, not for honor, but for cleanliness, so the blood will show clearly when spilled. The priests do not wear masks. They want to be seen. They carry blades carved with runes and speak words no one translates. You are handed a bowl and told to pass it after each throat is opened. You do as you are told. The blood is caught, mixed with herbs, poured on the roots of the oldest tree. That tree has turned black from centuries of offerings. Its bark flakes like scabs, its branches twist like arms, and then they hang them, one by one, the 9. From branches already groaning with iron hooks. Some die quickly, others do not. The crowd watches in silence, not out of reverence, but conditioning. Even the children are made to see it. They do not cry. They are told this is the way to keep the gods fed, to keep themselves safe. You feel a hand on your shoulder. The vulva. She whispers that each scream strengthens the veil, that each death oils the gears of the world. You look at the sky and wonder if the gods are watching. And if they are, what kind of gods demand this? Behind you, the drums rise again. You realize the ceremony is not over. They are choosing the next 9. They dress her in silk, not because she is honored, but because it makes her look less like a servant and more like a gift. The chieftain has died, and with him goes the last protection she had. Now the household must choose a companion to follow him into the afterlife. They say it is tradition. They say the gods demand it. They say the dead must not walk alone. The slave girls are lined up in the courtyard. All of them taken from distant raids, their languages broken, their memories buried. The elders ask who will volunteer, but everyone knows it is not a question. Refusal is punished, willingness is praised. So the girl steps forward, not because she wants to, but because pretending to want it is the only choice left. They smile. They call her brave. They place a wreath on her head and call her a bride of Valhalla, but there is no celebration in her eyes. Only the dull flicker of someone who has been preparing for this moment since the first night she was dragged from her village. For 6 days, they feed her wine steeped with herbs. It keeps her quiet, dreaming. She is paraded through the village in white robes while the people watch. They toss flowers, they sing. But at night, she is taken to the longship where the chieftain's body lies, wrapped in furs, surrounded by his weapons. She is made to sit beside him, touch him, speak to him, prepare herself. They say she must be ready to serve him in the next world as she did in this one. On the 7th day, the ship is filled with gifts, silver bowls, carved animals, weapons, food, and her. She is no longer called by her name. She is called the offering. The village gathers. The priest raises his hand. She is led to the center of the deck and laid beside her master. They place a blade in her hand and tell her to smile. She tries, but the smile cracks. A man steps forward, then another. They surround her under the guise of ritual. Each touch is explained as sacred, each act masked in ceremony. But there is no holiness here, only cruelty wrapped in linen and fire. When she stops moving, they say it is time. The pyre is lit. The ship begins to burn. From the shore, the villagers raise their arms. They say the gods are pleased, that the chieftain will arrive in Valhalla whole with all his possessions. But the girl was never a possession. She was a person. And now she is ash, her story swallowed by flame, her face forgotten before the smoke reaches the sky. They will tell the tale as tradition, as a noble farewell. But it was not a farewell. It was a theft, one more life buried beneath the lie of ritual. They bring him out at dawn, bound at the wrists, stripped to the waist, barefoot on frost-hardened soil. His name was once spoken with pride, but now it is muttered in fear. He is not a thief or a murderer. He is something worse, a traitor, they say, a rival, a warning. He will not simply die. That would be too merciful. He has been chosen for something older than execution, older than vengeance. They call it the blood eagle, a gift to Odin, a punishment remembered long after breath leaves the body. The platform is built from cedar planks, dark with oil. The ropes are tightened across his limbs until his back arches. Around him, villagers gather in silence. Children sit on shoulders, elders lean on staffs, warriors watch with arms folded, unmoved. The executioner steps forward. He does not wear a mask. His face is calm, practiced. He carries a blade curved like a crescent moon. It begins slowly, a cut along one side of the spine, then the other. The flesh parts like wet cloth. Ribs are broken next, one by one, pulled outward like the pages of a book. The victim does not scream, not yet. His mouth is open, but the sound has not found its way through the pain. Blood pools beneath him, thick and steaming in the morning air. The crowd does not flinch. They have seen this before. It is not cruelty, they are told. It is justice. It is art. The lungs are the final part. They are pulled from the cavity, arranged like wings. Red, trembling, still moving. It is said the longer the victim breathes, the more the gods are pleased. The man is still alive, barely. His eyes find the sky. Perhaps he searches for Odin, or perhaps he wonders why his gods have gone silent. The ritual is not rushed. The executioner steps back, allowing everyone to see. The wings, the broken ribs, the body held open like a shrine. The children are told this is what happens to those who betray. The warriors are told this is what power looks like. The blood glistens in the early light. Ravens gather on the trees. The man takes one last breath. The lungs shudder. Then still, no one speaks. The silence is the final part of the ritual. The villagers turn away, returning to their homes, their hearths, their morning meals. The executioner cleans his blade. The body is left for the birds. Tomorrow, it will be burned. Ashes offered to the wind, but the image will remain, carved into memory, etched into children's minds, not as horror, but as lesson. This is what it means to rule with fear, to kill with ceremony, to make pain beautiful. The blood eagle is not just death, it is message, one that does not need words, only wings. They begin young. The children are brought to the edge of the grove, small hands clutching their father's cloaks, their eyes wide and searching. They do not yet understand what they are about to see. But that is the point. Understanding is not required, only exposure. A boy of 7 watches his cousin hanged from a tree, her face turning blue in the cold. A girl of 6 holds the bowl that catches blood from a stranger's neck. No one tells them to cry. No one tells them to look away. They are told to be still, to be strong, to remember. This is how it begins. Not with hatred, not even with malice, but with normalization. Pain becomes background noise, ritual becomes routine, and the line between reverence and cruelty disappears. You are not taught to question the gods, you are taught to feed them. The village functions like a machine oiled with fear and memory. The vulva walks among them, nodding at those who obey, ignoring those who flinch. Every month brings a new offering, every season a new reason to take. The rituals do not end. They shift, they adapt, they echo. And by the time you are old enough to wield a blade, you do not tremble when it sinks into flesh. You are proud, because the gods are watching, because your ancestors are listening, because if you hesitate, you might be next. This is the quiet brilliance of it all. No cages, no whips, just stories, passed down like heirlooms, just songs, sung in rhythm with screams, just tradition, carved into the bones of the land. The rituals are not relics of the past. They are the spine of the culture. They hold everything together. And even as the world outside begins to change, as traders bring new coins, new gods, new tongues, the old ways endure. They hide beneath the surface, buried like seeds waiting for blood to water them. You ask how this was allowed to go on, how no one stopped it. But that is the wrong question. The right question is, who would dare? To defy the rituals is to defy the gods. To break the cycle is to become its next offering, and so it continues. Not because the people are evil, but because they were raised to believe this was necessary, sacred, beautiful. The most terrifying rituals are not the ones drenched in gore. They are the ones so quiet, so consistent, that no one calls them rituals at all, just life, just culture, just the way things are. And that is how darkness survives. Not by hiding, but by dressing itself in the familiar. These rituals were never meant to be remembered, but now you know them. If you believe the world should not forget what power once looked like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments which country you're watching from. I read them all.